Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Trudy Ann here with another video update. I haven't updated the F category in a while, and a lot of persons have been asking what months they're currently dealing with. And for the F category, it's not a clear-cut answer because while the DQ date is very important, there is another date that is even, in my opinion, more important. Because I know persons in the F category who have been DQ'd for almost 2 years and they still haven't gotten their interview letters. And the reason being is that their priority date is not current. So the priority date, or the date that what we call the PD, is to me even more important than your DQ date. Yes, you need to be DQ'd to get a letter, but at the same time, you need to be current on the visa bulletin in order to even be considered for an interview. So in this video, I want to do an overview of the F category. I want to touch upon the subcategories and say who falls where, and then we'll discuss the visa bulletin in a little more detail. So the family-based visa, as we affectionately call the F category, has maybe like 4 major subcategories from F1 through to F4. F2 is divided into F2A and F2B. So let's begin with F1. F1 will have adult unmarried children of U.S. citizens. And when they say adult, they mean that persons are over the age of 21 years old. F2, as I mentioned earlier, is divided into F2A and F2B. So F2A would be the spouses and unmarried children of a legal permanent resident. That means someone who has a green card, someone who is not yet a U.S. citizen. Note that the children that fall under this category has to be under the age of 21 years old, right? So if you are over 21, that's what put you in the F2B category, which is the adult unmarried children of a legal permanent resident. Again, someone who has a green card but is not yet a U.S. citizen. F3 are the married children of U.S. citizens, and F4 are the siblings of U.S. citizens. So if you're in the F category, understanding what subcategory you fall into is very important, because this will help you to understand where you are in the visa line. Because unlike the immediate relative visa category, for the F category, there is a quota. There is a number of green cards that are available every year. 226,000 to be exact for this year. Another important thing to note is that the year is not like the calendar year. So it doesn't run from January to December. For them, the fiscal year starts October and ends September the following year, right? So starting October 2023, 226,000 visas or green cards are available for the F category. All right. So on that background, let's discuss the visa bulletin, which is a publication regarding immigration to the U.S. that is published by the United States Department of State. The primary purpose of the visa bulletin is to provide an updated waiting list, which is also known as the priority date, for immigrants who are subject to the quota system. And by the quota system, I mean that is a visa going to be available out of the 226,000 that they have for the year? Is a visa going to be available for you when your date comes up? So this is where the priority date is important, because think of your priority date as your place in the green card line, right? The visa bulletin is normally issued the second or third week of each month, and there's a stagger, like a month stagger. And by that I mean that in December you will get January's bulletin, in January you will get February's, in February you will get March, that kind of thing. So there's a little stagger between the months, right? And just to go over a point that I already made, the bulletin, it exists because Congress caps the number of green cards that can be issued each year. So 226,000 in the case of the family-based green cards. So this is where it's very important as well to know what subcategory you fall into, because for F1, out of the 226,000 visa, 23,400 is allocated to that category. For F2 has the largest amount, but remember that it's split between F2A and F2B. So F2 as an entire category gets 114,200 of those visas, with 77% going to F2A, which works out to be about 87,934 visas or green cards. And F2B gets 23%, which works out to be about 26,266. F3 is allocated 23,400 green cards, and F4 65,000 green cards. No, remember, this is not for Jamaica. So it's not like, oh, you're in F1, you're in Jamaica, and 23,400 such visa or such green cards are going to Jamaica. This is for the entire F category, for the entire F1 category for the countries, right? So this is what creates the backlog, because you have all these people who are being filed for in all these countries. And using F1 as an example, again, you have only 23,400 visas or green cards for the year. Now, to add even more problems or to add even more roadblocks to this, no country gets more than 7% of the allocated visa or green card numbers, right? So let's take our beloved Jamaica, for example, and still using the F1 category. Jamaica is not getting more than 7% of that 23,400. That works out to be 1,638 visas. That's the maximum green cards for the F1 category that Jamaica will get for the year. And so, guys, that's really what creates that backlog, because if Jamaica is getting 1,600 green cards for that category for that year, for this year, and we have 4,000 people in that category waiting, let me see how much people now gonna get no visa and still have to go wait until next year. 2,362, right? So that's where the priority date comes in. So a person with an earlier priority date will be further up in the line than a person who just filed last year or filed a few months ago. Yeah, they must go join the line. So just to reiterate, Congress limits the number of green cards available based on country of origin. And when you think about countries like China, which have like billions in their population, in the billion, India, in the billions too, Mexico, couple millions, Philippines, couple millions, hundreds of millions. Their backlog is greater than the other countries, right? Because of their population and the amount of persons filing in these countries. And you will see as we get into the bulletins. So the visa bulletin is not hard to find, guys. You can go on Google and just type in visa bulletin, and this is what you want to get to the chart A. So you choose a month that you're looking for. If you're looking for the latest one, let's say you're doing it now and you're looking for February 2024 would be the latest bulletin, right? And you will look at chart A, which says the final action dates for family sponsored preference cases. And this chart shows which priority dates have reached the front of the line. So these green card applications are ready for approval right now. So this one that I'm looking at is for January 2023. Because what I'll do, I'll go through the bulletin from last year, January, to where they are currently. And we'll discuss what changes took place each month. And there were quite a few months that nothing moved. There was absolutely no change. Let's orient you to the first bulletin, which is the January 2023 bulletin. The first column that says family sponsored, you see they have the F categories, right? Then the next column says all chargeability areas except those listed. So chargeability area is just a country where you belong to, or where you're going to get your visa issued. So whatever country that is going to be counted against their quota, right? The 7% that they are allocated, or the maximum that they are allocated, if that's making any sense. So remember I mentioned China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. Their case is a little different because of the population that they have, the amount of people that live in their countries. So they're listed separately because their backlog can be much greater than other countries. So if you're not from China, India, Mexico, or the Philippines, you are in the second column. That's where your priority date will lie for whichever category you are in. So my Jamaicans and my Caribbean nationals and my Africans and whoever watches this channel, we're focusing on the first and the second column of the bulletin. We're not care about the next four, right? So for January, we realized that F1 category, the priority date listed was the 1st of December 2014. So what this means is if you have a priority date before the 1st of December 2014, you are current, meaning there is a visa available for you, right? F2A, you see the C in the column. It means that F2A is current, mean they don't have a backlog. And once you're in that category and you're documentarily qualified, there is a visa available for you. So you can you're just awaiting them to send you an interview date to go to the embassy to get your visa, right? F2B had a priority date listed, or the final action date then, of the 22nd of September 2015, which would mean that if you have a priority date before that date, you are current and you're in line for your there's a visa available for you, basically. F3 was at November 22nd, 2008, and F4 March 22nd, 2007. Now, let's head on over to February 2023. February 2023's bulletin. Nothing changed for F1. It was the same. F2A was still current. That's good. That was good because that was last year, right? F2B, nothing changed. F3, nothing changed. And F4, there was no change. All right. Let's move on to March 2023. F1 was still at December 1st, 2014, right? That's where it was. F2A was still current. Very good for those persons who were documentarily qualified. F2B was still at the 22nd of September 2015. F3 had no change as well. F4 no change. Let's move on to April. F1 had no change, no movement whatsoever. F2A, and this was where it got really messy. F2A used to be current. Now they have what you call a rollback or a retrogression. So in essence, F2A developed a backlog. So now in order for you to be current, if you were in the F2A category, you had to have a PD that was before September 8, 2020. So nothing changed for the other categories. And so let's move on to May 2023. So in May, there was a slight movement in F1 category. Because remember, F1 was at the 1st of December 2014. So they gave them like a 14 days move. So it went to the 15th of December 2014. F2A, they were at September 8, 2020. That remained. F2B, 22nd of September 2015 remained. F3, no move in that category as well. And F4 remained the same for May. Now moving on to June, nothing changed in the bulletin for any other categories. Then let's head on over to July. The same bulletin. I mean, in the Jamaican group, they just copied and paste the bulletin, like nothing changed. Same thing. In the August bulletin, so August 2023, F1 saw another little movement, about 17 days, 2 weeks stop. Yeah, so the final action date moved from December 15, 2014 to January 1st, 2015. There was some movement as well in F2A, but this was not the type of movement anybody wants to see that is relying on the bulletin, because this guy took some huge steps back. This was retrogression for the F2A. So they moved from the 8th of September 2020 to the 8th of October 2017. That's what, 3 years? Like, help me with the maths. Yeah, about 3 years. F2B was the same, no movements there, but F3 saw some forward movements to the 8th of January 2009 from the 22nd of December 2008. So call that what? Almost less than a month. I mean, you can work it out, the days or whatnot, but they had less than a month movement. So if you had priority date the 23rd of December, and so you weren't current on the bulletin, priority date 23rd of December 2008, and then they move to the 8th of January 2009, then yes, you're bingo in a sense. You became current and you would have gotten a letter to go and get your visa, given that you were documentarily qualified. For F4, there was no movement in August as well. So let's head on over to September. F1 remained the same for September. F2A had a little forward movement from the 17th of October from the 8th of October 2017 up to the 1st of January 2018. So a little over 2 months they moved. For F2B, it remained the same. F3 and F4 also remained the same. So let's head on over to October 2023. F1 saw no changes. F2A had some movement again by a month, moving from the 1st of January 2018 to the 8th of February 2019. So my bad, that's not a month, that's a year. So it had a forward movement by a year and a month, right? That sounds about right. F2B, F3, and F4 saw no changes. So another thing, before we even move on to the next month, October 2023, that's where the fiscal year will have started, as I mentioned earlier in the video, right? So, right. The new year started in October 2023 for the green cards. Now, moving on to November. F1 saw no changes. F2A, no change. F2B, the same. F3 and F4, the same. So the bullet didn't change for November. For December, there were absolutely no changes. And now we're getting to January 2024, where there was some movement in F2A. The bulletin moved from the last action date of February 8, 2019 to the 1st of November 2019. So that's what that sounds like. 9 months of movement. F2B saw a little movement from the 22nd of September 2015 to the 1st of October 2015. So that's 10 days or 9 days worth of movement for the F2B category. F3 was at the 8th of January 2009, and it moved to the 22nd of April 2009. So that's what? Let's see, January, about 3 months. Let's just call it 3 months, because I'm here trying to do this math in my head. And F4 saw some movement from the 22nd of April 2007 to the 22nd of May 2007. So a month. They moved by a month. Now let's jump on over to the February 2024 bulletin, which would have been the latest, because I'm making this video on the 24th of January. And so February 2024 bulletin would have been the latest bulletin. And for F1, no movement. For F2A, there is some movement from the 1st of November 2019 to the 8th of February 2020. So call that about 3 months, thereabout. Yeah, that might not be correct, but you can do the math. So November, December, January, about 2.5 months, because it didn't go far in February. F2B remain the same. F3 no change, and F4 no change. So that's where we're at, guys. So check the February 2024 bulletin. It's right here, and I already went through the who falls into which category. So check which category you are in and look at your priority dates and compare it to the dates that correspond with your category. And if your priority date is before the date that corresponds to your category, you are current. If your priority date is after the date that is on the bulletin that corresponds to your category, you are not current. So you are in line waiting for your green card. So for example, if you have a priority date of, let's say March, let's say you're in F1 and you have a priority date of March 2nd, 2014. March 2nd, 2014 comes before the 1st of January 2015. So that means you are current and you need only be documentarily qualified, and you could be receiving your letter anytime. However, if you have a priority date, let's say January 2020, and you're in F1, you would not be current on the bulletin. Can't stress that enough, because other persons don't know and don't understand. So for the ones who already understand, I'm sorry if I'm boring you, but I'm trying to help those who are still confused going through the immigration process. So the last time letters were issued for the F category was January 1st of this year, and the DQ dates were all over the place depending on the different categories. But as I mentioned earlier, the DQ date is not the most important date. It is important, but not the most important, because you can be documentarily qualified. If your priority date is not current, you will not get a letter. So focus on your priority date, and then you can start asking about interview letters when you are current. But until then, there's nothing you or me can do but to wait, right? So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section, and I'll try my very best to answer you. As always, I am not an immigration lawyer, nor am I a consultant. I am just somebody who loves to help, and I know a lot more about other things than immigration, right? So I don't know everything. So I'm saying all of that to say that I do not know everything. And if you have a question that I don't have an answer for, I will ask persons that might know, and I will get back to you. All right. So as always, thanks so much for watching, and it is always a pleasure to help. I love to give the information to help you guys to get through this very difficult and stressful period. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.